We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Hey, everybody. It is Thursday, January 25th. We are, as some people say, chapter 25 into 365 chapters, which seems incredibly long of a book. I can't read that much. I can't read a few chapters, that is. Okay. Anyway, Thursday, let's get into it. So yesterday we talked about Alina Habba and how Alina Habba really got herself into some shit. She stepped in it, like just waffled her toes right in it. She went to the event for Donald Trump's New Hampshire primary win. And what did she do? She took photos with Dylan Quattrucci, who then posted the photo, and then he got kicked out. And I said yesterday, please go check out Dylan Quattrucci's profile. I sent the chat in the Discord. I put it in the chat here. That way you could all quote tweet, you could comment, and you could show, or rather continue to drive the wedge between Maga, Dylan Quattrucci, Alina Habba, Donald Trump, and the rest of that cult. Because remember, he complained, and I'll play the video again just for people who weren't here for yesterday's show, but what happened was Alina Habba said to Judge Kaplan, that they're currently on trial for right now. She said, I need to postpone the trial. I'm feeling feverish. My parents have COVID-19. Then we find out on social media that it wasn't just that, none of that was true, but she showed up to Donald Trump's New Hampshire primary party. Photos, videos, all of this stuff. I mean, like, really, MAGA could not be any dumber. If you're going to lie, at least commit to the lie, or if you're going to do it, make sure that you're not going anywhere that's going to be highly documented, with a bunch of photos and videos. Maybe like if someone were to give a speech, whether they win or lose the primary, they're not going to be on record of doing. So you don't want to be around that. That's probably the thing you want to look out for the most. But God forbid Republicans have two brain cells to rub together. So Dylan Quattrucci, who was on January 6th, who threatened and told officers on Capitol Hill that they should go hang themselves, because that's MAGA right there in a nutshell. Love to back the blue, but also love to tell them to go kill themselves when they don't do the thing that they want. So we had Dylan Quattrucci was at this event. He was getting photos taken with Alina Habba, and nobody thought maybe this was not a good idea. So this is what happens.
Please, sir. Can you tell me why? Like, I've knocked more than 12,000 doors for President
he knocked
Trump.
doors for Donald Trump.
I've done everything. I'm getting kicked out right now, guys. Guys, I'm getting kicked out of the Trump event for no reason. Like, I'm just standing there supporting Trump. Like,
no
why
reason.
Are you removing me? Can you give me a reason why? Did Trevor tell you to remove me?
I don't know who Trevor is, but maybe.
What did I do? That's wrong. I've done nothing but support Trump since the beginning.
Now, here's the thing. He didn't actually do anything wrong, okay? He's not besides being a MAGA Republican, a racist, bigoted, xenophobe, all that stuff, he actually didn't do anything wrong, okay? He took a photo with Alina Habba. Now, the person at fault here is Alina Habba. Alina Habba lied to Judge Kaplan. She said, my parents have COVID. I'm feeling feverish. I need a continuance we need to postpone this trial date. And the judge was like, okay. And then it's revealed that she's at this event in public. Totally fine. She's smiling, taking photos, in videos. Again, not his fault. As bad as Dylan Quattrucci is, as bad as like this kid is, he didn't actually do anything wrong. He took a photo with Alina Habba, who happened to show up. The fault is all on her. So he's getting kicked out because, truthfully, he didn't do anything wrong, but he's getting kicked out because he got them in trouble. Okay? He, as Jim Williams, one of the moderators, by the way, wonderful moderator of the show, as Jim says here, Alina Habba was plain hooky and was caught red-handed. Caught red-handed. As Tony says, her DSLs won't save her. It's pretty accurate. Pretty accurate right there. Thank you. So yeah, he didn't do anything wrong, but Alina Habba was the one that did it. She's the one that took a photo with this kid, and then, I mean, you cannot tell me that any of these MAGA supporters, these Republicans, are going to go to some event and not post a photo and not post a video. Like I said yesterday, these are the people who literally went to the Capitol, destroying property, smearing shit, vandalism, stealing property, and then they were posting photos from their accounts with their full legal name, with their own photos of themselves in the profile, not anonymous ones, not like little burner accounts, full on personal accounts. And then they were like, "Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! Why is the FBI? Why are people coming to arrest me in my house?" It's almost like they think that there's no consequences for the actions they take. So anyway, Dylan here,
It's the beginning. Like, why
he's
am I
getting kicked
removed?
out, and he's filming the whole thing for our enjoyment, really.
You're not even giving me a reason why. Why? What did I don't even know what I did. They just came up to me and said I have to leave. I don't know. I saw Trevor and the guy just pointed like him to me and said I have to leave. But I don't know. It's ridiculous. I've done more for President Trump than literally anybody in the entire state, and they're removing me from this event.
Now, if I was Dylan here in this moment, watching or experiencing this, I would probably be pretty confused too. It's like, dude, I've done so much for Donald Trump, right? I told police to go hang themselves, to go kill themselves. I knocked on doors. It's great. I'm glad you did all that stuff. But the idea that he's getting kicked out, like, he clearly and rightfully so doesn't have any idea of why it's happening. The reason being is because he didn't do anything wrong. But like I said yesterday at the end of the show, this is something that is important for us to do. We have to continue to drive a wedge between people like Dylan, between Alina Habba, Donald Trump, MAGA, anyone that's in that crew, anyone that's in that cult. Because, as he says here, let's see if I can find the part. He talks about loyalty.
Unreal.
He's like, this is what loyalty gets you.
Unreal. They just kicked me out for no reason.
Okay, a lot of complaining.
For no reason. They just came up to me and said, Dylan, you have to go. I was the deputy director of the campaign. I've done everything I possibly can to support President Trump. This is unreal. Unreal.
Unreal.
Absolutely unreal.
Unreal.
This is how they treat loyalty in the Trump world.
This is how they treat loyalty in the Trump world. I mean, talk about running face first into the point. You know this to be true. Donald Trump loves his loyalty. He loves to talk like a mobster. He literally did it that night when he was talking about, threatening to take action against Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. But thankfully, Ron DeSantis quit and endorsed me. So nobody's going to look into him. But this is true. This is how they treat loyalty in the Trump team. Now, for people who are just realizing this within their own camp, within the Trump team, I mean, takes a bit of a slow locomotion here, but it's finally happening. And we need to continue to push this and say, Trump will sell you out. Trump will throw you under the bus. Trump will do this. Trump will do that. Trump will make sure that he is in the best position possible and his close affiliated people. But anyone else on the outside, they can go kick rocks. Because that's the point that we have to make here is Donald Trump doesn't care about it. I mean, Donald Trump doesn't care about his own kids. So he will happily throw them under the bus and say, oh, yeah, they knew all about those finances and that tax fraud and how we were cheating people with our statements and our company was actually not as profitable as it really was. You have to remember that Donald Trump will sell out his own family. And here we have an example, a perfect example of some guy who took a photo and ended up getting Alina Habba in trouble because she decided to play hooky and show up after lying to Judge Kaplan. So we need to continue to push these moments where we say, over a photo, over a single photo, that was her fault. This guy's getting kicked out. It's his loyalty or lack thereof that found him in this position where Donald Trump will cut ties with you as soon as you become a nuisance, as soon as you become an obstacle in whatever path they're on. So then when we go into what happened today in court, I'll see if I can find the transcripts, but Victor Shi says, amazing. Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, referred to Donald Trump as President Donald Trump, to which Judge Kaplan immediately corrected her and said, it's Donald John Trump. He's not the president anymore. Anyone who believes and says, oh, yes, it's President Trump. It's not President Trump. No, it is not President Trump. Former president, but I mean, like, even saying him former president is giving him a lot of slack on that one. It's not former. It is just straight up. He's a private citizen now. He's Donald John Trump, or as Tony liked to say, Donald Jessica Trump. I've never actually seen the birth certificate, so I don't know if his name is John or Jessica, but maybe we should create a birther movement of our own around Donald Trump, because he seems to love that as his go-to move when it comes to Obama, Nikki Haley, or anyone who doesn't look like him, but is against him and potentially has the opportunity to beat him in something. So this is what we have to, as Tony says, people are saying, don't know. People are saying, many people are saying that Donald J. Trump stands for Jessica. It could be for Juanita. It could be for, I don't even know. I can't even think of another J name right now. That's a female name for whatever reason. But it goes right there. That's right. Not a president, not a former president. He's just like everyone else in court, a private citizen. He's nothing more and can be much, much less. So there's let me see if I can find the full, here we go. There's a full-on thread from the court this morning. So here's the photo, by the way. Here's the photo that was taken that night, showing up super, I don't even know, but this is some sort of like fleece Patagonia. I can't even see her hands. She's like morphing into some animal. And she took a photo with this guy, right? Everyone's got the same outfit. They always wear the blue suit. They got the pin, the red tie, the white shirt, the red hat. I mean, geez, talk about a bunch of sheep, man. They're always like, we think for ourselves. We do our own research. Tell me when you have done your own research. Tell me when you've thought for yourself in the last 7 to 8 years. Anyone on Maga, please speak up and tell me right now when you have taken a moment to independently think on your own without using whatever Trump's nonsense and mouth word vomit. Tell me a moment when a Republican or a MAGA Republican, whatever. I mean, it's all MAGA now, but tell me a moment when they have thought to themselves, hey, you know what? This is my own original thought and not one that came from Donald Trump. Isn't one that came from Jessica and the words that he believes are to be true. So here's a sketch from the courtroom. I'm still trying to find the thread that has some of these back and forth moments that are pretty great, but this is what we have here with Mrs. Betty Bowers goes, an incompetent attorney, Alina Habba, proved to be, I never thought she would allow Donald Trump to testify. It's one of those things. If you're a good lawyer and your client is on trial for something and you've got a lot of things stacked against you evidence-wise, you're like, oh man, not only are you going into this defamation trial again, but you've already been proven wrong. You've already been proven liable beforehand against E. Jean Carroll. Then Donald Trump went on to CNN and to Caitlin Collins and said a bunch of other defamatory things about E. Jean Carroll and then continued to tweet about it and attack her and attack her and attack her. After this trial gets settled, which will be another settlement that is issued to E. Jean Carroll, Donald Trump will go out and do it again and again and again and again. He cannot help himself because he has to be right. He has to be right. He has to be the last. He has to have the final word, he has to have the last word, the last say. He has to be able to shut you down by insulting you, by attacking you. Remember, Donald Trump doesn't live in a world of facts. He doesn't make arguments and debate on facts. He goes with ad hominem attacks. He makes them very personal. He'll find out something about you. I mean, even Ron DeSantis, as much as I don't like Ron DeSantis, he went after Ron DeSantis' wife. Now, Casey DeSantis is no saint whatsoever. She's a terrible person, and her eyebrows are doing their own thing. And that's coming from someone who has bigger, bushy eyebrows like myself. So, but Donald Trump, will get upset when somebody attacks his family, his wife, but it's totally fine to attack a judge's wife, a clerk's wife, another candidate running in the election, their wives. I mean, this is what we have before us. We have a guy who just is a little schoolyard bully. He has no way of interacting and engaging in politics without attacking someone else and belittling them and making them feel less than him, because that is what Trump is all about. And I'll say it like this: hurt people hurt people. Donald Trump was taught and treated that way from his father, Fred. And then Donald Trump did the same thing to Don Jr. And not so much Ivanka because he wants to fuck her, but also Eric Trump. Barron, it seems like his interactions with Barron are pretty isolated, especially because not Ivanka, because of, wow, why can't I remember her name right now? I'm blanking on it. Melania, had a brain fart there. Melania. I don't think they've had many interactions together when you look at the fact that Melania Trump seems to keep him separate from Donald Trump. Not only that, but there's a big question of whether Barron is actually Donald's son and is someone else's son, and Melania got pregnant and then was like, oh, Donald, it's your baby. It's a baby Barron. It's your baby. Who knows if that's actually his? Many people are saying that it's not. I mean, if you look at the kid, he's like 6'7". He's like 6'5", 6'7", towering over his dad. The guy continues to grow like a beanstalk. So when you look at the kid and you look at the compare the looks and appearance of Donald Trump to Barron, you're like, are they related? I'm not sure. So who's to say? But many people are saying that it's not his kid. Here we go. This is more of this. This is from earlier. This is 2 weeks ago. Alina Habba on Fox News. Trump attorney Alina Habba, I can tell you right now, absolute immunity or presidential immunity is an immunity that exists not only protecting presidents, but also Americans. Again, just like I mentioned yesterday, you have Alina Habba and Donald Trump making these wild accusations and claims, especially ones that are on legal merit, and saying, well, I as a president was able to steal those documents, and I as a president was able to say those things. And also after the fact, I still have those protections. But they do not think, they think that it only applies to Trump. Like in an isolated event in the 4 years that Donald Trump was president and the 3 years after the fact, it only applies to Donald Trump. But no one else, including the current sitting president, which is Joe Biden, could not, do the same thing that Donald Trump wants to do, which is get installed, stay for 4 years and beyond. Only dictator for a day, that's not possible. But he also said he wants to stay there for 4 years and beyond, which again indicates that the guy is unwilling to be anything other than a dictator. He's not willing to have a democracy. He wants to rip it up because he believes that he is privileged and he rightfully owns it and it's his and no one else can have it, because as soon as he has it, because at that point, you have to remember that Donald Trump came from no working background, never put in a hard day's work, but was given money from his father. So he started from doing nothing, but was affiliated with his father. So he had status. Then his father gave him money. Then he had a bunch of buildings where he put his name on, and he had a bunch of companies that failed, but argued that somehow that made him a successful businessman, which it didn't. But as you continue to see someone who is already in a high status, then they become a billionaire. And then the next step, well, what's more power than being a billionaire, right? The next power there is, I want to be the leader of the free world. I want to be the president of the United States. So if you say that, what else is there to go after that? There's nothing. You cannot, there's nothing that is higher in power and status than the president of the United States. And Donald Trump is incredibly fragile in his ego and incredibly triggered and afraid that this idea, because he could have said, like, you know what? He could have said, I don't want to be president anymore. I don't want to run. But he can't really do that, because what that would happen is it would show is it would reveal to his fan base, his cult, that he did in fact lose the election, and that everything they had worked up to leading up to Jan 6th and after was all for nothing. Donald Trump accepting the facts of the situation that he lost the election, even though he raised $250+ million off this big lie. So if he were to say, okay, you know what, I achieved the highest office, but I was only able to get 1 out of 2 terms here. I wasn't able to fully complete. Like I wasn't fully to, evolve in my Pokemon status from one character to another. So with this one, he can only go for another term. He can only try to get a second term in because that's all he has left. That's all that he can do in comparison to already being president for 4 years, is to finish it out and say, great, I was president for 2 terms and that was it. Even though he lost pretty handedly in 2020. Remember, 81 million votes, not all for just Joe Biden, but also people who just did not want Donald Trump back in the Oval Office. So when they continue to argue on these merits of, oh, Donald Trump has immunity, he can do this, he can do that, they're also making the argument that Joe Biden can do the very same thing. He can, even though it's illegal, Joe Biden can be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to stay president, and then I'm going to assign my successor. And everyone after that, we're going to make sure is a Democrat, right? Like, he's like, oh, I'll make sure that Harris becomes president, or I make sure that Newsom becomes president, or I make sure that my son Hunter Biden becomes president. Like, it's one of those situations that Republicans, again, do not future-proof. They do not think of these things in advance and then say, well, if I make that argument, does it then create an issue for my enemy, my counterpart, my rival? And it does. And it does. 10 times out of 10, every time they try to make an argument, it ends up creating a precedent, or would create a precedent for their counterpart. So whatever Donald Trump wants to argue is then handed over to Joe Biden. If they say that this is he has immunity and this is something that he totally is given and is privileged and he has that right, then so does Joe Biden. That's just how you look at it. You can't say only for him and no one else. You can't apply that type of logic there. So yeah, anyway, so
we've seen prior presidents get for national security actions that they have taken. And the word that we've gotten from attorneys watching this is that they are not sure this D.C. court is going to go along with the argument that in this situation, the former president is immune. What was your takeaway from what you heard in there today?
I've argued presidential immunity, Martha, ad nauseum, because I represent the most targeted former president in American history.
That's true. She does, she's in charge of defending the most targeted president in the U.S. history, but that's only because he did things to justify that. Remember, this is the group of people that say law and order, just comply, back the blue, blah, blah, blah. But here we have an example of Alina Habba trying to argue that Donald Trump is being unfairly prosecuted. And this is all a witch hunt, which they continue to say over and over again. But it wouldn't be an issue if Donald Trump didn't do the things that he did, like steal a bunch of classified documents, then lie about having those documents, then lie about giving those documents back, then moving those documents around the property of Mar-a-Lago, then saying that he gave all the documents back, then having an affidavit that he swore that all the documents were given back. Then you had Alina Habba as well as Christina Bobb saying, yes, all the documents were given back, even though they weren't given back. And then we find out in photos in the indictment that they were hiding in plain sight. They were in random bathrooms. They were in a ballroom. They were in little chimney areas. They were next to his desk. They were inside of his desk. The idea that Alina Habba is like, he did nothing wrong and he's the most unfairly persecuted president in American history. Well, dude, maybe if you just left peacefully and said, hey, you know what? Not this time, but I'll come back in 2024. I'll come back for that election. And then he built up his base. Maybe figured out some policies along the way. But unfortunately, Donald Trump was unwilling, like a spoiled little brat, to accept his loss. So he wanted to take the ball and go home too. And democracy, thankfully, prevailed in 2020 and said no. 81 million people saying no to Donald Trump. Not just people that said yes to Joe Biden, but people that said, no, we're not doing another run with this guy in office. Remember, this is the guy that's saying that, oh, crossing the line is totally justified as president.
I can tell you right now, absolute immunity, or what we call presidential immunity, is an immunity that exists to not only protect presidents, but protect Americans. And that was the arguments that we heard today. If you all of a sudden change an immunity that has been in place.
Also, to have presidential immunity would mean that you were president. So you have to be, it's crazy. There's a thing in the name that you have to be to get it. So if you want to have immunity that is presidential, then you have to be president. I mean, look, I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, we can break it down even more, but I feel like I'm going to be like, okay, so if you take 1 and you add it to 1, it equals 2, not 3, not 5. But when you start saying like presidential immunity, it's kind of, inferred, it's implied, directly, explicitly said in the name presidential. I don't know how else to break it down for people. Like the idea that Donald Trump as a private citizen also has presidential immunity, that he could do whatever he wants. I took those documents because they're mine. I declassified them with my mind. This is the guy that says he wants to be president. This is the guy that says he intentionally mixed up Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi. This is the guy that intentionally mixed up Obama with Biden. That said, oh, you know what? I said Obama when I'm talking about Biden because Obama's really the one running this. Really? He is? Okay, we continue with this deep state cabal theory. Okay. And when he makes the argument, because he was caught on camera in 4K saying Nancy Pelosi or Nikki Haley, when he really meant to say Nancy Pelosi, again, trying to be like, oh, guys, I meant to do that. You don't get it? Guys, I'm playing 47D chess here. You got to keep up with what I'm doing. No. The guy's old. The guy's confused. I mean, what do you think happens when you're older? Okay? On both sides. Democrats, Republicans, I mean, dude, age is not something that you can avoid. But with that being said, you also want to make sure that if you do have someone who is of that age that can function, you want to make sure that they're not going to destroy the democracy that we hold so dear and that our country was founded on. You don't want to have someone that goes, oh, well, because I didn't get the way that I wanted, I now ruin it for everyone else. I mean, we just learned too that the White House pharmacy had a run on class 1 or schedule 1 pharmaceuticals. You have name brand drugs that were just gone missing in the White House pharmacy when they should have been giving them generic ones. Turns out that they wanted that top shelf drug. And now that you look at Donald Trump and you hear the things about Sudafed and Adderall and this and that, you begin to wonder, makes sense, doesn't it? Now, again, I'm not saying that Donald Trump was, abusing the White House pharmacy and giving himself name brand drugs or anyone else affiliated with him, but the drugs went somewhere, okay? The drugs, they disappeared and they went somewhere. But maybe, I don't know. I'm just asking questions. Did Donald Trump take those drugs? Oh, yeah. And the other one was Provigil. So I used to, this is actually a good point. So I used to take Provigil. Provigil is a drug that's typically given to like shift workers late night or like people who are doing truck drivers, right? People who are like long distance, long hours. They work late at night. A lot of people who work in like data centers will take Provigil. I used to take Provigil, but it was as an alternative. There was some research that had shown that people had taken alternative to Adderall if they have ADHD. I have ADHD. I don't really take Adderall anymore, but there was a point at which I did take Adderall and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to switch over to a drug that's not like Adderall. And I took Provigil for a while. Some people called it the limitless drug. They said that That's why it was described by some people. I don't know. Did I turn into? Did I have that in my life, or did that happen to me? No, I don't think it really did, but I took it for a while. So seeing Provigil on as one of these drugs is really interesting. There's Provigil and Nuvigil, I think, is the other one, which is, if anyone knows how pharmaceutical companies work, they'll slightly change the chemical makeup of drugs so that they can then push a new patent, so it's protected for whatever 17 years or something like that. And so Provigil is now, I think, a name. It's moved past the name brand exclusive status. Now they can have generic ones that are done. So that was another drug that had gone missing, which is very interesting to hear, because I personally and some other people that I know took it for that very reason. So when I read that yesterday in the report that talked about things that went missing, or things that they did a run on the pharmacy of certain. Oh yeah, modafinil is another. Yeah, modafinil right here. So modafinil is the generic one, right? I believe that's right. That sounds right. But yeah, Provigil, and then Nuvigil was the new one, and then modafinil, I think, is the generic name. But yeah, a lot of people who work in data centers, or they're shift workers, they work late hours where they're like, where their schedules are like flipped inverse. A lot of people do that, who like work at night and then sleep during the day, essentially.
Forever, that has been in place for very good reason, then how are presidents to protect the country? How are presidents to speak to the press and address the nation when they're afraid of defamation in civil claims, when they're afraid of criminal charges for having military take action against our enemies? It is hypothetical after hypothetical of extreme situations that are not the current situation. That's what I heard today. And I think our counsel did a great job of presenting what has already been established law. Presidents have to perform in their duties with absolute immunity from claims, because while they are sitting in president, Martha, it is not just, and I want to explain this in plain English, I always try and do that for non-lawyers. It is not just acts within his employment as the sole member of the executive branch. It is also for acts in the outer perimeter. It is for decisions he has to have discretion to make.
What decisions is he making outside of the executive office, the executive branch? Like, what decisions would he be making once he's not president? I mean, Joe Biden was like, I can't trust this guy with daily briefings. I'm cutting him off. Why do you think Joe Biden did that? Joe Biden stopped the daily briefings going to Donald Trump because, Donald Trump doesn't read them, as we know, and it's been reported. But we also have to remember that Donald Trump isn't someone to be trusted. Oops, excuse me. Having some bubbly water over here. But Donald Trump is not someone who can be trusted. And Joe Biden saw that and knew that and said, no, we're not going to give him daily briefings and access to confidential information. You have to understand. I mean, Joe Biden was like, look, the most I can do here is cut you off. Okay. I'm going to cut it off from the source so that you can continue to do whatever it is you do without having sensitive information. Because every other president is able to function in a world where they do not disclose information to other people. They do not try to use private, classified, sensitive information to brag to people, like an Australian billionaire, where you tell them about certain secrets, nuclear codes, and documents that you somehow still happen to have, even though you never took anything. Or also the fact that, remember, Donald Trump said that he didn't steal it, but it was planted. It's all a hoax. It was the FBI. And then later he says, yes, I did take it and I declassified it. So which is it, man? You took it, you didn't take it, it was given, it was planted. What was it? You can't trust this man. No one can.
If you have no discretion, then why are you elected as the president of the United States? That is the bottom line. The president was the president.
No. Okay, here.
He should be afforded immunity. And frankly, if the D.C. court does not make that decision, that would be mind-boggling to me, to be honest.
Mind-boggling. Yeah, mind-boggling. That's really something. That's really interesting hearing from Alina Habba, because I don't know if there's much to boggle around in her mind. The idea that Alina Habba would be like, "Oh, that's mind-boggling." Well, you need something to kind of boggle around, guys, okay? You need something to move around. Again, you need a couple brain cells there. I mean, Alina Habba remember, Alina Habba said herself, she was asked the question, if I was given a choice between being pretty or hot and being smart, what would I choose? And she said, oh, easy. I want looks. I want to be pretty. I can fake being smart. No, you can't. No, you can't. I don't even know how she still has she is able to still practice law. There have been many moments during this trial and others where she has said stuff where you're like, that's not how the law works. And I'm not even a lawyer. You know, it's like, that is not how that works. And I have not even had to, like, the idea that Alina Habba was like, oh, look at me, I'm so hot. I'm a triple threat. Now, I don't know what the third thing would be, but she's claiming that she's smart and hot, and she's also something else. I mean, look at Alina Habba, Look at this gender-affirming surgery that Alina Habba got. This is a photo that's been, let me see if I can find this. I just found it yesterday, actually. Let's see, before surgery. Because there's this photo that's going around where Alina Habba is like, oh, man. Let me see if I can find that tweet. They're making the argument that because Alina Habba's hot, that somehow that makes her better of a lawyer, or that makes Trump's situation better, which is a weird argument and a weird flex to make. Like, oh, this person's hotter, and so it makes all the 91 felony counts against my client moot, right? It makes it irrelevant. It makes it to a point where it doesn't matter because she's so hot. I'm sorry. What? I don't get the logic there. I don't understand what you're trying to make, because I feel like I'm going to have a bit of a headache if I even try to assume the brain function that you have going on. Alina Habba, let's see if I can find the photo. Oh, here he is. Is this her? This is a photo that was going around. Yeah, it is. It is her. Okay. It's just an updated photo. All right, here we go. Ba-doop-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Here we go. Alina Habba. This is Alina Habba before she got her surgeries, her gender-affirming surgery, her care, right? Maybe got some teeth done, got her nose done, got some eyebrow stuff done, maybe a little bit of chin. Who knows, right? Because if you look at her after, her face is different, her eyes are different, her nose is different, and her teeth, I think, are a little bit whiter. So she got some teeth whitening going on. But you can't tell me that this is the same person as this. So here we go. You can't tell me that this person, as we go through, right? You're going to tell me that this person, Alina Habba, is the same as this person? This is Alina Habba. And when you click it, she hasn't updated her thing, but when you click into it, it goes to her current profile, which is her updated profile photo. And that is what, oh God, here we go. Sorry, I'm going to break this news on Ron DeSantis. Or not breaking news, but I'm going to address this news on Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis over here with Jenna Ellis quote tweeting another person, as we transition into or segue into another person who is not really a lawyer, but they claim to be. They don't know any of the laws of the state they practice in, but also they believe that they can just make up random laws, right? She's Jenna Ellis was a traffic court attorney, and then somehow got herself onto Trump's team to help push this idea that the election was stolen. And then 2 years later, after she had gone on Twitter and been like, oh, You guys are the ones that are wrong. You guys are going to be the ones that are eat your own words. You guys are the ones that are attacking me right now when it's really your, bunch of bullshit. Only for her to then go into court in Georgia and cry her little crocodile tears. All right, so here's Ron DeSantis. Can the federal government defy the law and force a state to follow a foreign invasion? Okay, a lot of people say this thing's like foreign invasion. It's not an invasion, okay? And also, foreign invasion is a politically heated word, we'll say, or phrase, because what they want you to think is that a bunch of people from South America, Central America, Mexico, and so forth, other like Guatemala, Honduras, whatever, they want you to believe that these people who are either seeking asylum or looking for a better opportunity are going to be ones that are invading this country. They're going to be coming through and they're going to be raping and pillaging and stealing and fighting and killing. No, that's not. The idea that some innocent child is going to be the like downfall of this country, when Republicans are the ones who say they're Christians and love to project their Christian ideals on other people and indoctrinate them by forcing them to believe that God is only one person and no other religion really matters, and everything that he said and did is actually true, and that their own interpretation of said religion, the Bible, is the correct one. So they can interpret it how they want. They can change their opinion. They can modify it. They can say that God didn't actually mean this thing, but he meant something else. I mean, these are the people that rules for thee, not for me, right? Like everyone else has to follow the rules and I don't have to do shit. And so you have Ron DeSantis over here who wants to step in, who's like, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to protect this country on the southern border. Ron DeSantis has not even touched the southern border. Okay. You got to go through a few states to get to Texas. What's he going to save you with? The Gulf of Mexico? The Atlantic Ocean? Like what is Ron DeSantis going to save you from when it comes to the invasion? It's not an invasion. And of course, Ron DeSantis, oh my God, I hope he got this. If he quotes James Madison, I really hope he got it right. Because we know what happened just days ago when he found himself in a cowardly, fetal position, hold up, saying, oh guys, I won't even go on the Sunday shows because I got to record this video that took me so long to get right. And I'm going to awkwardly tell you about why I now back Donald Trump and I'm going to drop out of this race. Because that's what he did. And a week before that, he was making fun of every Republican who went to Donald Trump and kissed his ring. For only a week later, 7 days later, for that very guy, big air quotes there, Ron DeSantis, to then do the thing that he made fun of other Republicans for doing. Hypocrite, coward, cuck, whatever you want to call him. So now he's over here he's like, oh, well, I got to be relevant again, guys. I need people to understand that I'm actually still the governor of Florida. So now he's going to comment on things that are happening in Texas, which, by the way, I'll play a clip in a moment here, which shows you that Donald Trump wants to keep the border an issue until the 2024 election. He doesn't want to give Joe Biden a win because if he does, then that's one less thing. And we talked about this yesterday. Remember, the thing that I said was if they give up certain talking points, if they allow for Joe Biden to get any win, they're not going to be able to campaign on that. They're not going to be able to run on that. And so what do? They keep us, constituents, and other people that they rule over in a perpetual loop of despair and harm. That's the Republican way. We won't make your lives better. We might make it seem for a brief moment that things are better, like we'll pass a Jobs Act in 2017, which actually in the long run is bad for you, but good for rich people. So they keep you in this loop and they say, oh, yeah, it's all Democrat fault. It's all the Democrats' fault. I mean, why do you see an ebb and flow when there's a transfer of power from one party to the next? Republicans slashing regulations, cutting jobs, removing funding, defunding whole departments, only for a Democrat to come in after they've totally created a wasteland and say, okay, Let's introduce new programs. We've got new legislation. We need to introduce regulations that we're fixing for the things that were taken away that we already had regulations for. But if they don't have these issues to talk about, then there's nothing for them to campaign on. If they have nothing to campaign on, then it's revealed that they're not doing anything in their job. That is the whole point. They have to keep a perpetual loop of despair and harm to say, oh, look, it's broken. This is broken. This needs fixing. And we need to look at this. So then you say, okay, fine. Let's fix this. Let's repair this. Let's make this better. Look at the border. Joe Biden's like, hey, I'll give you resources. I'll give you technology. I'll give you money. I'll give you new people, whatever you need. And then Republicans are like, whoa, hey, that's no, sorry, we can't take that. Sorry, we cannot take that. It just shows you that Republicans are not actually focused and want to fix the things that they complain about. They want to keep it broken and then blame the Democrats and saying it's their fault, even though the Democrats and Joe Biden was like, look, man, send it to my desk. I will sign it. Bring me a bill that works on the border and let's get this shit done. And Republicans are unwilling to take that step because if they do, they lose that whole talking point. Donald Trump doesn't have anything to campaign on. I mean, he doesn't have anything at all right now. But if there's something that you can blame under an administration and say, oh, Joe Biden, it happened under his term, he's the cause of it. If that gets fixed, then Donald Trump is in trouble, right? You look at COVID, recovered. You look at the economy, recovered. You look at healthcare. I mean, people sign up for Obamacare in crazy numbers because people are hearing that Donald Trump wants to totally strip it away. And he doesn't have a healthcare plan. We're still waiting 2 weeks, and that's many, many years ago. They want to defund different departments like the Department of Education. They want to take money from Homeland Security. They want to give more money, but less money to foreign entities. A lot of them like Putin, so they don't like Ukraine. You have to understand that when you look at all these things, you're like, great, yeah, there's a problem. You guys identified a problem. Let's work together to fix that problem. They go, no. We don't want to do that. Well, okay. What I meant to say was they'll always come up with some excuse. That's what it is. So Ron DeSantis here, again, if he quotes James Madison wrong, oh God.
They must remove fortifications from their border. They put wire, they put things to keep people out.
Yeah, let's just also clarify that. Putting razor wire underwater and above water, not a humane way to go about this, and not something that a Christian would do for sure. I mean, let's be real here, guys. What kind of Christian, God-loving human would say, you know what? If those people get tangled up in that barbed wire and die, that's what, that's what meant to happen. Well, look, it wouldn't have happened if you didn't put it there. There are other ways to create non-life-threatening preventative measures at the border. Republicans only want to build walls and put razor wire in. They don't want to work on policies. They don't want to create a pipeline to citizenship. They don't want to create this pathway of people that are seeking asylum, people that are coming from Mexico or South America. They don't want to allow those people to come into this country because what they'll find is that those people, non-white people, will probably support Democratic policies that will move to big metropolitan cities. Chicago has a high percentage of Mexican Latinos. I know that from experience. My dad was one of them. You look at the Midwest, a lot. I mean, these are hardworking people who are just looking for the opportunity for a better life. The chance to make money and send it back home. That's what my dad did. Again, another example. They're not murdering people, raping people. They're not stealing stuff. Like, you're going to have bad apples in every batch that you get. But when you totally alienate a whole group of people with xenophobic, bigoted, racist policies that are murderous in their intent, vile, like putting barbed wire up in a river, you're not a party of Christians. You're not a party of human beings loving other human beings. You're murderers. You're cold-blooded, sociopathic murderers. No emotion, void of any emotion. And we know that from Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis is an android. Okay. We know that this guy, this fascistic android, who's also racist, doesn't know how to have any sort of normal interaction with people, right? Like, he laughs like that. He wipes his mouth like this and his nose and everything. He doesn't know how to interact like a normal human being.
Biden saying you got to take that down to let people come in illegally, which is just crazy. And I remarked that if the Constitution was originally understood to mean that a state could not protect itself against an invasion.
Okay. And yes, sorry, I said barbed wire, razor wire. But the idea that he's trying to make this argument is like, oh, well, one, okay, let's accept the fact that our country was built in a different time when an invasion was something that we actually feared. Like, oh no, the British. Oh no, we have to protect ourselves on this new land that we stole from other people, like indigenous. But again, it reminds me of like the gun argument, right? My Second Amendment rights, I got to have my guns. Yeah, well, I'm sure when the founding fathers looked and wrote this in, they didn't imagine somebody being able to shoot multiple rounds per second that were armor piercing. Back then, they're like, all right, I got to load the musket. And you're like 60 seconds to load one bullet in, one little metal pellet, you know? And Ron DeSantis is like, when our founding fathers, and I hate when they do that shit. They're always like, our founding fathers, when they created this country, they did not envision this happening. They did not envision the federal government coming in to say, no, you can't do that as a state. Well, yeah, I'm sure they also didn't envision Republicans putting razor wire into a river.
Invasion. If the federal government could force a state to allow an invasion, the Constitution would have never been ratified in the first place. Texas.
It's not an invasion, you fuck.
Texas would have never joined the Union when it did. And if you look at Federalist 46, which
shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. Shut the fuck up. This guy, I just can't. This guy is trying to remain relevant in the conversation of politics after he torched his career. Ron DeSantis went on an international tour, stopped in 4 different countries, telling people he wasn't running for president when he really was. Then announced he was running for president. But at the time that he announced that he was president, it was already done. The damage was done. Donald Trump had went for the jugular, called him a pedophile, made fun of eating for pudding, called him meatball, Ron DeSanctimonious. The dude was done. And he still thought that, oh, you know what? I'm going to run for president. So then he got into politics, or into the presidential race. Didn't attack Trump for months. He didn't go after Trump until like late last year. And when he did, he would like retweet or he would like the Never Back Down account, which again, ironically enough, he backed down. So, you know, take it for what it is. But Ron DeSantis is now trying to stay relevant. It's sad to see Republicans treat other people like this. Like the only way forward, instead of working on policies and implementing technology and resources and money and additional people, feet on the ground, they go, you know what we need to do? Razor wire. We need razor wire in the water. Anyone who comes to the water, we want to get them cut the fuck up. We want them to die. That is what they want. Because when they see someone, a mother, children, whoever it might be, who are looking for fucking asylum, man, they are seeking asylum in the U.S. Because if we're really going to pull this whole, like, we're Christians bullshit, then we got to look at the situation and say, oh, yes, what did Jesus do? Oh, he, fed them, clothed them, housed them, took care of the sick, washed their feet. Republicans are like, no. The only people who are going to do those things are, non-white people. It's like I said, it's sad to see. It's sad to see a group of people hate people so much like that. So much that they would allow them to die in a very inhumane way. It's frustrating, is what it is. It's frustrating. And the idea that Ron DeSantis is over here is trying to be like, well, a state can do whatever it's want. Okay, dude, if you want to argue state rights, that's whatever, man. But if you're going to now argue states' rights on top of the, like, you're like, look, a state can do whatever it wants, right? No, a state can put in razor wire, but a state can't say, no, we don't want to ban abortion in our state, right? Like, you look at Republicans, Kansas, they got upset when Kansas was like, no, we're not going to allow you to do that. Ohio, other states. Then you see an example here where they say, oh, yeah, states have these rights to do this, but states don't have the rights to do the other things. Again, they pick and choose. They switch between lanes. They never want it to be only one way. They'll flip over to the other side and say, well, no, it's this way right here. Oh, no, it's over. And we have to remember, Biden didn't do anything. The Supreme Court did it. And the Supreme Court, oh my God, the Supreme Court is heavily conservative. It leans 6-3, man. Like, people need to understand the idea that the Supreme Court is the one who made this decision. Joe Biden didn't have any play in making that decision for them. They came to that conclusion later on. 3 of those justices in a 6-3 leaning conservative bench was assigned by Donald Trump. You cannot go around cherry picking what you want, and you cannot blame Joe Biden. It was brought to the highest court in the land, and guess what? They decided to go one way. You cannot get mad. You cannot get upset at the group of people that you were so happy about getting into office or getting on the bench. Right? I saw people that were bitching and moaning about Amy Coney Barrett. I thought she was supposed to be... Dude, you cannot get mad at Biden or any Democrats for this decision. Go, if you want to go bitch and moan, go complain to Donald Trump and the rest of the Republican Party because they didn't do the thing that you wanted them to do. And then you got Greg Abbott, who, oh God, the hatred that keeps that wheelchair moving, I swear to God. The man gets hit in a freak accident by a tree, becomes paralyzed from the waist down, gets in a crazy amount in, let me see if I can find this. He gets a crazy amount in his settlement. And then what does he do? He removes the possibility for anyone who wants to seek damages like himself. Let me see if I can find this. I saw it yesterday. Oh, also something I said yesterday, which was, you know how I know that President Biden's policies are working? It's because Republicans are trying to take credit for them when they go see their constituents. Oh yeah, we got you this $1 billion plan that's coming to your county, your state, whatever it might be. They love to take credit for the things that are working, even though they once said that it was socialism and it was communist. Here we go. Alex Cole. If you don't follow Alex Cole, you should. He's good. Fun fact, Greg Abbott, was in a wheelchair because of a freak accident. He sued and won $8.9 million. So what did he do next? Of course, what is anyone who's a Republican who benefits financially from a settlement? They want to make sure that nobody else can get the same thing like them. So in 2003, Texas capped pain and suffering awards and medical malpractice suits at $250,000. Greg Abbott, a gubernatorial candidate who was then Attorney General, supported the cap to deny others the compensation that he received. Remember, rules for thee, not for me. Rules for thee, not for me. The Republican motto. He gets $8.9, nearly $9 million in a settlement after getting crushed by a tree. Too bad I didn't get the whole thing. Then in 2003, he goes, you know what? I don't think it's fair that people get as much money as I did. We should cap it off at $250,000. And that's it. Yeah, because, our healthcare system is so strong and so amazing and cheap that if something does happen to someone, then $250,000 will certainly make up for the expenses to cover medical bills, in-home care, make up for loss of revenue, go into paying your children's schools, supplies, bills, tuition, what have you, groceries, gas. That's the Republican Party. That is the Republican Party. The cruelty is the point of what they're doing. They love to see people suffer, and they do not want people to be smart and educated. They do not want people to be healthy and protected. They do not want people to be financially literate and independent. They do not want these things for everyone else. Because if us, the American people, have the things that Joe Biden and the Democrats are investing in, because that's the real threat they see. When it comes to 2024, they see us, democracy, the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, as a threat because he and the party are trying to create opportunities for everyone else. And if we get those opportunities, we educate, we learn, we become independent, we know how not to run into scams and how to get tricked by certain political moves and things like that, then they lose their power. They lose the power and the influence that they once had over everyone else. Now, their own constituents, they're for the most part lost, right? There's no fix. There's no getting them back over. And nor should we even try. It's not worth it. I'm not going to placate to someone who believes that Joe Biden was replaced by a clone. I'm not going to give in and try to work with someone who believes that there's some crazy cabal and we should put people that are, that tried to deny Donald Trump his presidency on a barge outside of Guantanamo Bay. I don't believe that we should give anyone or platform anyone in the way that isn't being critical of their rhetoric the time of day. The fact that we have Donald Trump, who doesn't believe that he lost the 2020 election. I mean, he went in to his acceptance speech, or rather his winning speech in New Hampshire, as he was threatening both Nikki Haley, and then also he was going to threaten Ron DeSantis, but Ron DeSantis bowed out and endorsed him. In that speech, he was still bitching about it. He's like, we won New Hampshire in 2016. We won New Hampshire in 2020. We won New Hampshire in 2024. That's not at all the case. I mean, here, I'll end it with this. Here's an example of Hillary Clinton, Trump last night in New Hampshire. We won New Hampshire 3 times now. We win the primary, we win the generals. Reality has a different way of looking at it. 2016, Hillary Clinton won the fucking general election in New Hampshire. 2020, Joe Biden won the fucking New Hampshire. It's just, reality is not something they believe in, and it's not something they can accept. And so when I say it's not worth, I'm not going to placate, I'm not going to try to work with some of these people. It's because it's not worth it. I could get much more done trying to educate other people about the things that that Joe Biden has done for us than try to move people from Donald Trump's delusions of grandeur over to a point where they go, oh, well, you know what, actually, no, if you've invested your life into 7-8 years of believing everything that Donald Trump says, it's not worth it. You should not spend more effort and time when there's much more at stake. Because remember, these people, Republicans, are in the minority. Their policies are not popular. They went after Roe v. Wade. Donald Trump is bragging about it. It's going to be the thing that brings him down. When it was brought to the states said, no. We want to give it. No. We do not want to ban abortion. We want to protect at least that right. That's the least we can do. It's a losing issue, but Donald Trump cannot shut the fuck up. But you know what? Fine. I don't keep doing it. Please keep doing it. Continue to drive a wedge in this group. Continue to dig that hole, Donald Trump and the rest of the Republican Party, because you clearly have said, you can look at everyone else. You could look at Bill Barr. You can look at Paul Ryan. You can look at any number of other Republicans who either worked or supported Donald Trump, and they have openly said, with Donald Trump as the nominee, Ron DeSantis even said it. Like 2 weeks. He was doing a town hall. He said it. He was, look, if you follow Donald Trump to be the nominee, we will lose the 2024 election. That is the truth. 2018, 2020, 2022, and now 2024. Every time this guy's been the leader of that party, they have not won in the wave that it was going to be, that they claimed it was going to be. Oh, red wave. It's going to be a red wave. It's going to be a red wedding, man. Everyone's fucking going. Nah, it didn't. And it's because of Trump, because MAGA policies aren't popular. You'll get some fringe characters here and there, but for the majority of people in the U.S., they're not that crazy. They're not that crazy. And even Republicans are like, oh, no, dude, please, taking away Roe v. Wade was not the way that we should have gone. And not only that, again, you've got people, I mentioned this the other day, Trey Gowdy was even on his own network being like, look, people from my state are not okay with the fact that people are going to prison. Doctors, medical professionals, mothers, women. Because again, what happens? The mother goes into prison. She gets, whatever amount of time, whatever the bill is, whatever they fines she gets fined with, they go to prison. Baby's born. Baby can't live in prison. It's got to go into foster care. It becomes a ward of the state. What's the next thing that happens? Well, doctors, they get in prison. They go to jail. Okay, well, then nobody wants to come to your state anymore and practice what happens. What ends up happening is what happened in Mississippi. You see a decline in practicing medical professionals, and you see an increase in things like, I think it was a syphilis outbreak. Let me just make sure. Mississippi. Yeah. Tenfold over the last several years. And by removing medical professionals and making it illegal to have an abortion, especially ones that are life-threatening for the mother, because, pro-life and all that stuff, they want to introduce things like the death penalty. So if there's no medical professionals to deliver said babies in that state, what happens? You see things like congenital syphilis rose from 10 to 110 over 2016 to 2022. And even more so exponentially in those last few years. Because people don't want to go to these states anymore where you have people threatening. Even before Roe v. Wade was overturned, you had people threatening with legal repercussions to say, if you do this thing, we will fine you, we will jail you, we will kick you out, whatever it might be. And now they want to give people the death penalty because that's the only way. Get an abortion and then you kill the mother because that's That makes total sense, guys. Especially for, again, a bunch of Christian Republicans who believe to be pro-life. It's not. It doesn't make any sense. And if you don't think about it, it makes perfect sense. And that's the Republican Party. That is how they function, in chaos. If things are chaotic, then there's something to distract people from. If there is chaos in the stock market or in the medical field or in, our national security, whatever it might be, if Republicans can allow chaos to brew, then they still can show themselves as effective lawmakers. And they can go to their constituents and say, look, there's all these problems. We need to fix them. When really, they're the cause of the problems. And when given the opportunity, as we see here with President Biden, people in the Senate, representatives, hey, we'll give you funding, make a bill, bring it to my desk. I will sign it so we can get this addressed right away. And Donald Trump being like, whoa, guys, don't do that. Because if you do, then Joe Biden gets a win. And then I don't have anything. I don't have anything to bitch and moan about, because if he gets this thing, then what am I going to run on? And that is what MAGA is afraid of. They need something. They need chaos to run on, because chaos is a distraction, and a distraction allows people to be split from their focus of what they should have important at that time. And you got to pick and choose. Well, this person's talking about this and this person's running on this. So yeah, it all comes down to Republicans. They thrive on chaos because chaos allows people to see that there's something going on, and then allows Republicans to then run and create a campaign on those problems to say, I can fix it. Not those guys, I can fix it. When really they're the ones that are just keeping the problem going. Again, it's a constant cycle of harm and despair, and that's how they function. But I have faith that in 2024, we will send another signal to the Republican Party and Donald Trump especially to say, your fascistic policies, your zealots, your representative, your false prophets, the people that you run under your name, under your party's Freedom Caucus, MAGA, whatever dumb shit you want to call yourselves, America First Party. You have to see the truth in that they're not doing anything. And so 2024, you, me, our friends, our family, we carpool, we go to the polls, we show ourselves. We got Super Tuesday coming up in March. We're going to show that these policies and these representatives, these senators, these, congressmen, these lawmakers are not representative of us. They do not speak for us. And we are going to make sure that they hear us loud and clear when we go to the polls, when we go to the ballot and we submit and we say, here you go, I voted. And that is today's show. Thank you guys so much. Today is Thursday, January 25th. We went a little bit over. But I will see you guys tomorrow on the Tony Michaels podcast for Bonehead of the Week. And I'm sure some of the people we talked about today are going to be on that list. Alina Habba, probably in some way, shape, or form. Greg Abbott, probably. Ron DeSantis, maybe. Donald Trump, it's a good chance. Who knows? I still got to make the list with Tony. I think he texted me during the show to ask me about Bonehead of the Week. So you'll see that. Make sure to check it out. And I will see you all tomorrow. But until next time, this has been another live episode of What Was That?